What's up everyone, in this video I'm going to be going over Ruan Mei's kit, builds and possible teams. The 1.6 live stream streamed a while ago, and so if you're still on the fence between Ruan Mei and Dr. Ratio, worry not because we are getting Dr. Ratio for free.
When version 1.6's Pantaray Event Warp becomes available, every Trailblazer who has unlocked the mail feature shall receive, via mail, one limited 5-star character Dr. Ratio. That is to say, me.
Yes, for free. Honkai Stario devs are the best. Oh my god. Okay, anyways, let's start with a kit. Basic attack is kinda useless, so I'm not going to go over that. Let's start with a skill. String sings slow swirls. After using her skill, Ruan Mei gains overtone lasting for 3 turns. This duration decreases by 1 at the start of Ruan Mei's turn. When Ruan Mei has overtone, all allies damage increases by 32% and weakness break efficiency increases by 50%. Also, if you factor in bonus ability 1, then the damage boost buff will go up to 68%, assuming that you max out her break effect, which is 180%. She's also the first character to have weakness break efficiency buffs. You only have this in Simulated Universe prior to her release, I believe. So, pretty good. I'm not sure how good this will be, honestly, because it's the first time this is happening. We don't really have any break effect carries as well. So, I'm not very sure how strong it will be yet. So, have to wait for a release to actually kind of understand when this could be powerful or stuff like that. And also this is for all allies. So yeah, really strong. I don't know how else to phrase it. It's just really strong because it's 68% damage for your entire team. And the best part is it's skill point positive because it's for 3 turns. So you use it once and then you will have it up for 3 turns. It's kind of crazy. It's like 2 SP positive, I believe. It's like a AoE Bronya, except it's SP positive. Obviously, you don't advance forward as well, so that's the trade-off between Bronya and Ruan Mei's skill. This also means that you might not want to run Ruan Mei in hypercarry teams, because hypercarry teams, obviously you only have one DPS, like Danheng IL, or some Jingyuan teams, Jingliu teams, stuff like that. Your supports probably don't get a lot of damage from the damage boost here, so it's kind of wasted on them. I think it's a lot better on teams where you have sub DPSs, kind of like Kafka DOT teams, or maybe Argenti teams if you run them with extra, or like Topaz and Dr. Ratio, Topaz and Qingyuan, those kind of teams, yada yada. Next, the ultimate. Ruan Mei deploys a field that lasts for 2 turns. The field's duration decreases by 1 at the start of her turn. While inside the field, all allies, all type resistance penetration increases by 25%, and their attacks apply Tornado Plum Rebloom to the enemy's hit. So what this thing does is that when they are trying to recover from weakness break, this Tornado Plum Rebloom will be triggered, extending the duration of the weakness break and delaying their action by an amount equal to 20% of Ruan Mei's break effect plus 10. And then dealing break damage equal to 50% of Ruan Mei's ice break damage. You can only use it like once for every weakness break, I believe. So it's kind of hard to activate this effect again within the same ultimate. Unless, of course, the enemy has like insane amount of speed. So I think the Tornado Rebloom part isn't like super insane or anything. It's like nice. You get to delay the action. It's more for survivability because when you delay the action, you can't like get hit right by them. Obviously, you do slightly more damage as well, but not enough to be like an insane buff or anything like that. The break damage is also pretty little. It's only 50% of Ruan Mei's ice break damage. And it's break damage. It's emphasized as break damage, so that means it can't crit, doesn't scale off damage buffs, stuff like that. No elemental damage boost. And ice break damage, pretty low base damage, and it's 50%. So the best, or rather the main focus of ultimate will be the resistance penetration, which is 25%. Why this is good is because it's not damage boost, or it's not attack percentage or crit damage. It's resistance penetration, which you usually only get from nihility characters or like self buff characters like Danheng. So very strong because of how it's calculated. It's calculated separately from damage buffs or defense shred and stuff like that. Next, her talent increases speed by 10% for the team, excluding Ruan Mei. So already this is kinda absurd. Just by existing, she will give your team 10% speed. And the next part of a passive is that when allies break an enemy target's weakness, Ruan Mei deals to this enemy target break damage equal to 120% of her ice break damage. So again, ice break damage, not much damage, and it's only 120%. So yeah, it will do decent amount of damage against bosses for sure, but then you kinda expect to do so anyways already, since she's going to be stacking so much break damage. Obviously, against weaker enemies, it's not going to do a lot of damage, so yeah. Next, her technique is kind of like Hanya's. Basically, her skill activates at the start of the battle without using skill points. But the second part of the technique is kind of interesting. In Simulated Universe, Ruan Mei has Silken Serenade, and attacking enemies will always be regarded as attacking their weakness to enter battle, and this attack can reduce all enemies' toughness regardless of their weakness type. So basically, Silver Wolf skill, but like better, I think. Yeah, but better. And then when breaking weakness, triggers weakness break effect corresponding to the attacker's type. And the really strong part is this next part. For every blessing in possession, additionally increases the toughness, reducing damage of this attack by 100%. And after breaking an enemy target's weakness, additionally deals to the enemy target break damage equal to 100% of Ruan Mei's ice break damage. So nice, small little extra break damage, but the very exciting part is the buff for increasing the toughness, reducing damage by 100% for each blessing. So if you have 28 blessings, it'll be 2800%, right? Can get out of hand pretty fast. I think you can one-shot bosses' toughness with this. If you have enough blessings, it would be kind of funny. Like you just start the battle and then they immediately have their weakness broken. So very useful technique, that's for sure. It's not really like kinda meh technique like Cities or whatever. I really like it. You save a skill point, and in Simulated Universe is kinda busted. Since we have already done bonus ability 1, let's do bonus ability 2. Ruan Mei regenerates 5 energy at the start of her turn. I think a really good quality of life bonus ability, and I'll explain a little bit more later, but it's because of her build. It can make things a little bit awkward, so having extra energy in her bonus abilities is very, very useful for her. And bonus ability 3 increases break effect by 20% for all allies. And for traces, 37.3% break effect, yeah, like pretty obvious, and then 22.5% defense and 5 speed. They're really good traces overall. They're all very useful for her. I don't think there's any like kind of niche ones that don't really activate. So looking at her kit overall, I think you might have noticed that she doesn't scale off anything except for break effect and well attack percentage if you count basic attack, but negligible damage, you don't really have to care about it. So you just have to stack a ton of break effect, and obviously you want some speed. She's a support, but yeah, she doesn't scale off anything else. Attack percentage, crit rate, crit damage, none of those. So the reason why she doesn't scale off anything else is because break damage scales off break effect, enemy's toughness, and your level. So the higher your level, the more damage you do. It's kind of like Genshin's Elemental Mastery, except you have to factor in enemy's toughness as well. And then for higher toughness, you will do more damage, and for lower toughness, you will do less damage. So right here, I have the formulas actually. So this is 450 toughness, 120 toughness, and this is the formula. Toughness multiplier for the boss times level multiplier. So it looks a bit like this, 0.5 plus the toughness divided by 120, and then this is level multiplier for level 80. So you would get 16,000, and then you add in break effect. So then with break effect, we just have to multiply by 1 plus 1.8, which is the 180% break effect. And then we have to factor in enemy's defense and toughness multiplier. So that would be times 10 over 21, usually for a level 90 character. So this is for MOC 10, like level 90 enemies and stuff like that. So if you're against weaker enemies, like level 80 enemies, then you obviously do more damage. So 100% break damage will be 21,000 for 450 toughness. This is usually for bosses already, like Kafka is one of them, I believe. And then 50%, so this is for her ultimate, 50% of her break damage will be 10,000. 120%, which is from a talent, it will be 25,000. And if you are against 120 toughness, you have all these values here, 7,000, 3.7 thousand, and 9,000. So 250% is for her Eidolon, I believe. It will be 53,000, but that is for like E6, I think. So yeah. So that would mean it's kinda weird to build her, or rather, she's the first kind. Actually, no, she's like the second kind of character that you would build like this. So obviously, you want a ton of break effect substats, kind of like what I have here. Just ignore the set effect for now. So more break effect, stuff like that. And then for body piece, because you can't use attack percentage, you can't use outgoing healing boost, you can't use crit rate, you can't use crit damage, I recommend just going for HP percentage. You can go for defense as well, but her traces already give 22.5% defense, so technically HP would be better. And for boots, we would want speed. It's pretty obvious why. It's because we want her ultimate to come up faster, so by having more turns in a shorter amount of time, we would build her ultimate up faster, right? And then for Planar Spear, again, like body piece, you can't use elemental damage bonus, you can't use attack percentage. I recommend just using HP percentage or defense again. And finally, for Link Rope, you either go for break effect or energy regeneration rate. When you go for either or, it depends on which relic sets and what Lightcones you are using. I'm going to show you. So again, we need 180% break effect, right? We can go over that if you want like some extra damage, but I think it's quite negligible, like 190% versus 180% or like 220 versus 180. It's not that big of a deal. So if you can give up the break effect, it might be worth it to go for energy regeneration rope. So for example, right here, you have 37.3 from traces, 20% from the bonus ability, and 64.8% from the rope. We add shooting meteor, which is the break effect piece. And then we have Talia Kingdom of Benetry, which gives you 36% at 145 speed. We would already be at 190% break effect. So we don't need that much break effect, or rather it's kind of up to you, I guess. So what we could do here is, instead of a break effect rope, we could change that for an energy regeneration rope if we are using her best in slot. Because her best in slot, like Cone, gives her 60% break effect. Similarly, for Memories of the Past, if you have S5, it's already 56%. I think it might be slightly less than this. I'm not sure how much. I mean, I could check it, but yeah. So if you are using Memories of the Past S5 and you don't have a break effect link rope, you would be at 181.3 already, and I believe this is 190.1. So you don't really have to go for extra break effect. And I didn't even factor in substats, right? You're gonna have a ton of substats. So you might not even need banditry. Yeah, or not even like 4-piece. You can like maybe go 2-piece shooting meteor. Even called shooting meteor. You can go like 2-piece shooting meteor and 2-piece like messenger, which is like speed, I believe. And then here you can go for like Penacony or Rightly Von Wak. I don't know how to pronounce that. Both of this is energy regeneration. So it really depends on your build. You just have to make sure you hit 180%. From then on, it can be worth it to go for extra energy regeneration rate. So why you would even go for energy regeneration rate is because you want to get her ultimate up faster, right? So what people have been talking about is getting a 3 turnout with some energy regeneration. So this only really matters in Memory of Chaos if you want to like 3-cycle it, you know? Yeah, it only really works in that scenario, but just make sure you get 180%, which is pretty easy to do considering we have all of this and subsets. So as you can see, my current build, I don't have like a HP piece or Planar Spear piece, and I already have 134% break effect. Yeah, it's, I guess, pretty easy to get. So now for relic sets, I believe there's only two possible relic sets, like I mentioned before. For the 4-piece, it's either 2-piece or 4-piece Thief of Shooting Meteor, and then Messenger for extra speed. Messenger, yeah, 6% speed. You can technically go for 4-piece as well, but I'm not so sure how good it could be. If you hit 180% break effect already without Thief of Shooting Meteor, then I think this can be quite possible. So maybe like 4-piece Messenger, and then you run... Where is it? Talia, Kingdom of Banditry... Yeah, here. So maybe you run 4-piece Messenger and then 2-piece 2-piece Banditry. Stuff like that could work, I think. If you just want like full damage, then maybe you could go for 4-piece of Thief of Shooting Meteor and 2-piece Talia Kingdom Banditry. But I think if you want a little bit of energy regeneration, which most people would, it would probably be something like 4-piece shooting or 2-piece, and then something like Penacony or Sprightly Van Wack, which I also mentioned it previously. So Penacony, I think really only for Jingliu teams. If it's not Jingliu, yeah, or maybe Yensing teams. The more general usage one would be Sprightly Van Wack. I like this a lot more. It just advances forward your action, and it doesn't really mess up your rotation or anything like that. I mean, I guess you would have a shorter duration for your technique, but it doesn't really matter because it lasts for quite a while, 3 turns. So yeah, it's really up to you and what light cones you're using as well. So now let's go on to light cones. So we don't have a best in slot yet. I will go over that later, but for now, a best 4-star light cone will be Memories of the Past. This light cone hasn't really seen any use because most harmony characters don't like break effect. Ruan Mei is the first harmony support that uses break effect and likes energy as well. This is very, 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 very strong for Ruan Mei. Like, if you have this S5 or S3 and above, it's already very strong. Or S1 even, you know, sure, just like put it on her. The other decent choice, but yeah, Meshing Cogs is a 3-star harmony light cone. You just regenerate more energy. This is again for the 3-turn ultimate thing. I don't really like it, but I think if you want that extra energy, it can be very useful. Especially if you are running energy regeneration rate, because it will increase this 8 energy, right? It will be higher than 8. So now let's take a look at her best in slot, Past Self in Mirror. It increases their break effect by 60%, like just for free. And then the next part is very strong as well. After the wearer uses the ultimate, increases all damage for all allies by 24%, lasting for 3 turns. Should the wearer's break effect exceed or equal 150%, 1 skill point will be recovered. And since we want to get up to 180% break effect, this is very easy to get. And finally, at the start of each wave, immediately regenerates 10 energy for all allies. I think this is quite strong as well. It will not occur very frequently, but you know, extra energy, I'll take it. So now let's take a look at her Eidolons. If you are going to be pulling for Eidolons, E1, very, very strong. When the ultimate's field is deployed, the damage dealt by all allies ignores 20% of the target's defense. Yeah, if you combine this with her best in slot light cone, you will get 25% penetration, ignore 20% defense, and like 20 something percent damage boost. It's kinda crazy. In that case, energy regeneration rate, very, very strong. E2 I don't really like, but I can kinda see when it can be strong. With Ruan Mei on the field, all allies increases their attack by 40% when dealing damage to enemies with weakness break. So why I don't really like this is because enemies have to be weakness broken. If you're dealing with enemies that have very, very high speed, then yeah, it kinda sucks. E3 just increases ultimate and talent level. E4, when an enemy target's weakness is broken, Ruan Mei's break effect increases by 100% for 3 turns. I like this a lot more than E2. It's not as niche because it doesn't require an enemy to be broken the entire time for this to be activated, right? It just gives you a buff for 3 turns, so it's much more useful. But the thing is, break effect, not very crazy for Ruan Mei. You would be maybe 280% break effect. It increases your damage slightly, but that's about it. E5 increases your skill and basic attack, normal. And E6 extends the duration of the ultimate's field by 1 turn. The talent's break damage multiplier additionally increases by 200%. So this is why I had that 250% one over here. Does a ton of damage and increases the ultimate's field by 1, right? So that's really insane, considering you have a best in slot Lightcone. I mean, if you have E6, you probably have a best in slot Lightcone, right? So her best in slot Lightcone is cast for 3 turns as well, and then you have this E1 as well that combines together with this ultimate field. So yeah, very very strong E6, but well, it's E6, you better be strong, right? If you're spending that much money on the character, you better be strong. So now onto teams. Like I said previously, I think teams with like double DPSs is very strong for Ruan Mei because more people will be able to capitalize on the damage buffs that she provides. So Kafka DOT team is 1. Ho doesn't really matter, doesn't have to be Ho, it can be any other healer. Doesn't have to be Sampo either, you can go for some other DPS like Luca, Queen Iphone, and soon in 2.0 Black Swan as well. Kafka, because Queen of DOT, and then you would have Ruan Mei. Another one would be something like this. I know people like to run Qingdiu and Blade, it's pretty fun. I like the synergy a lot, quite funny sometimes. Then you can have Ruan Mei as well instead of Bronya or Tingyun. So in that case, Blade wouldn't be like completely useless because you just focus everything on Qingdiu, right? Or like vice versa. And another one would be Jingyuan and Topaz. Topaz, well, being a follow-up attack support, and DPS is great paired with other follow-up attackers, so Ruan Mei is also very good in this kind of teams. And for my based Himiko enjoyers, Ruan Mei will actually be pretty good for Himiko, if not really good, because Himiko's whole thing is about breaking weakness. So having that weakness break efficiency buff and increased break effect is really really good for Himiko teams. So Kuru, if you still like to run that, or just other like hyper carry teams, maybe you could replace Himiko for Tingyun or Bronya or something like that, and you have Ruan Mei. I think this is still a pretty good team if you really like Himiko. Himiko is your main, stuff like that. Obviously, there are a lot of other teams you can make, but this is just a few kind of already viable teams. So Ruan Mei is quite versatile, so he works pretty well in all of these teams, but I think the absolute best team will be in a DOT team. Another kind of team that Ruan Mei will be good in is a team with Xue Yi, the new 4-star quantum character that will be releasing together with Ruan Mei, I believe. So she reduces toughness a lot in her kit. So like something like this, the more toughness reduced, the higher the damage will be, stuff like that. She likes break effect. As you can see, it's in her traces, 37.3. I'm not going to go into a lot of her kit, but she does pretty well if you can break enemy's toughness very fast. So more characters like this will be great for Ruan Mei. Now for the review, I personally think Ruan Mei is the S tier character easily. Like the rest of the Harmony units, they are usually really strong, and I guess it's not much of a surprise. The first limited 5-star Harmony unit is also very strong. The main focus of the kit is break effect and breaking enemies' toughness faster, but even without factoring those in, she already gives a ton of buffs to your team, and she's even SP positive. There isn't really a glaring flaw in the kit. Even all of her traces are very useful. She even does really good damage considering that she is supposed to be a support. Obviously, no character is a must pull, but if you really like DOTs or teams revolving around breaking weakness or teams with dual carries, Ruan Mei will be a very good pull for you. You don't even have to worry about getting Dr. Ratio because we're getting him for free unless you want his Eidolons. That's pretty much it for my guide and kind of mini analysis on her. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Bye bye.